My name's Terry Maxwell. I was watching TV the other day, and it was when all the ICE protests were going on. And I saw that there were some high schools that had students that got up and left the campus to go protest ICE. I've seen other protests that they've done, usually in political arenas. I'm not so sure that they've gotten both sides of the equation because it's usually that they're leaving school and they're going to go have some fun more than anything else, which I think is a shame because that's a discussion they probably should have in school. My concern is this: I drop my grandson off every morning at BHS and I hand him over to the people at BHS, and it's their responsibility to make sure that he is safe during the time that he's at school. If I want to take him out of school, I have to go into the administration building, fill something out, they have to go get him, they bring him to me, and that's the only way he can leave campus. Now, why would you allow a bunch of students who want to protest ICE to get up and walk off the campus because they show them walking down to Liberty Bell where all the other protesters are going to be? And I'm just wondering, what kind of liability do you have in letting that happen? What happens if one kid gets run over by a car? What happens if one kid, as somebody drives by and shoots them, gets killed? I don't know that this Kern High School District can afford something like that. And I would encourage you to have a policy that even though those kids want to leave, unless they're 18 years old and they want to sign themselves out, and you document that they signed themselves out, no kid should ever leave campus for anything like that. I don't know if you have a policy at this point, but I would highly suggest that you establish one ASAP, because it just seems like the soup du jour is to go protest something that you have no idea what it's really about, because you haven't heard both sides of the argument. So I'm concerned because I'm a citizen, I pay taxes. I don't want to have the burden of reimbursing somebody for the loss of their child because we didn't have a policy that said, no, once you're at school, you're our responsibility and you ain't leaving unless your parent says you can, and walks you off this campus. The other thing I would say is, this hat I'm wearing talks about the 250th year of this United States of America, and I'm just hoping and praying that every high school in this district, even though 4th of July isn't during the school season, is going to be celebrating and know what 250 years of our great country really means before they leave their campuses in June. Thank you.
Mi nombre es Petra Villanueva.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Petra Villanueva.
Vengo a estar en favor de uno de los board members,
I came here to speak in favor of one of the board members,
ya que ha estado haciendo el trabajo para nuestros estudiantes de las minorías.
because he has been doing the work for the minorities.
Y estamos en desacuerdo un grupo de padres de las diferentes high school acerca de uno de ustedes que habló de dar permiso o que estaban de acuerdo que ICE entrara a las escuelas.
And there's a group of parents that are in disagreement with one of the board members here because they stated that they were in agreement in regards to ICE entering the school sites.
Se les olvidó del juramento que hacemos todos los que hemos sido board members o que actualmente son.
You have forgotten about the oath of us who are board members.
Ya que en ese juramento hacemos de que vamos a proteger al board y a todos aquellos que representamos, y en este caso son nuestros estudiantes.
You have forgotten about the oath and about the people that you represent, in our case, the students.
No es justo que ICE esté entrando a nuestras escuelas o quiere entrar a nuestras escuelas a intimidar a nuestros muchachos, porque en realidad ellos son el futuro de nuestra nación.
It's not fair that ICE tries to go into the school sites or goes into the school sites because our job is to proteger a los estudiantes. Our job is to protect the students.
Si ustedes como board members no van a proteger a nuestros estudiantes, déjenme decirles que entonces están en el lugar equivocado. Deberían de trabajar para ICE.
And as board members, you have to protect the students. If not, you're in the wrong place and you're actually working for ICE.
Estamos muy, muy descontentos con esa persona que habló acerca de que está de acuerdo que entre ICE. Y si es necesario, quiero que sepan que la comunidad hispana nos estamos uniendo y queremos hacer un recall para la persona que siga aprobando esas situaciones en contra de nuestra comunidad.
Okay, me repito algo. And we're in disagreement with that specific board member that wanted ICE to go into the school sites. The Hispanic community is coming together. ¿Y me puede repetir lo que
Sí,
dijo?
que si él no toma la acción correcta, entonces nosotros queremos hacerle un recall y sabemos cómo se hace el proceso y todo lo que se necesita.
Okay, we're not in agreement with this particular board member, and we are coming together to do a recall, and we know the steps to take to make sure that we follow through with that recall.
Acuérdense que su trabajo es proteger a nuestros hijos de cualquier peligro y uno de los peligros es ICE en estos días. ICE no perdona ni el color de la piel, ni la religión, ni nada. Ahorita todos estamos en el mismo barco.
Okay, it says, remember, our job is to protect our kids. Right now, ICE does not discriminate. They don't care about the skin color, religion, nothing. Remember, we're all in the same boat.
Muchas gracias y buenas noches.
Thank you very much and good night.
Greetings to all. I'm a retiree from the district from over 20 years ago as an administrator. And I just wanted to say a few words and say thank you to David Manriquez for his excellent help and reach in his area of student population in the area that he serves. And we thank you, David, for your effort and work. And remind the district also that being American is not a one mode. And you have an obligation to the public, because you are a public entity, and that is to serve all. I thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Good evening. I came here prepared for a speech for, well, two people that were really influential in this year's, my development as a teacher. I work at Miramonte High School, and David and Steve, for you guys. We're here tonight because we believe in due process and fairness. The court has ruled that the recall petition language was false and invalid. The decision matters. It reminds us that facts matter. We support Trustees David Rodriguez and David Manriquez because they deserve to be judged on truth, not misinformation. Their focus has remained on our students' success, and for that, on their behalf, we thank you.
The main reason I'm here tonight is to speak in support of board member David Manriquez, trustee for Area 3. Over the years, Mr. Manriquez and I have not always agreed on every student's or school issue, but we have been honest and respectful about those differences. Yet, when it comes to integrity, adherence to policy, and commitment to students, I have always known him to be a person of principle and trustworthiness. And I am getting emotional because I never thought I would be speaking to the board, to Mr. Manriquez, and thank him for what he has done for the schools that are dearest to my heart. And his dedication to our students has been evident year after year. Throughout my career as a teacher and counselor in this district, I have witnessed Mr. Manriquez's support not only in board meetings, but in our campuses. He consistently shows up to academic assemblies, student performances, and end-of-year celebrations, demonstrating that his commitment goes beyond words. My final two assignments were at Arvin High School, Go Bears, and Nueva Continuation High School in Lamont, Go Knights. We always look forward to his presence at our events. He remains very much in touch and closely connected to the needs and concerns of the students he represents, which is why Area 3 has continued to support and re-elect him. Thank you, Mr. Manriquez, for representing Area 3 with dignity and integrity. We look forward to your continued service and re-election this year. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I don't have too much, but I wanted to come down here and offer my gratitude for those of you who stood up to kind of the onslaught that we're dealing with our state and their assault on our families. For those of you who were willing to vote to keep young men out of girls' sports, as a father of a daughter playing water polo, swimming at BHS, she would have had to leave and not been a part of that anymore, and she truly loves it. So I just wanted to come down here and offer my gratitude for that. Thank you. Keep standing up for our students.
Good evening. I'm a little bit disappointed to have to come before this board over an issue that you've been dealing with for quite some time, and that is the posting of the 10 Commandments in classrooms. We're getting ready to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence. In that document, Thomas Jefferson eloquently speaks about the laws of nature and nature's God. And a little bit later, he talks about our Creator, that God giving us many special rights. The 10 Commandments were written on a very special piece of stone, the Bible tells us. When you're looking at ancient documents, contextual studies say that the importance and the authority of what is being written is usually conveyed by what it's written on. Archaeologists have dug up years ago a 7.5-foot stele that would contain the laws of Hammurabi of the ancient civilization, where people could come to that stone, that stele, and see what the laws of the community were. We see that the Bible says that God, with his own finger, wrote on stone these 10 commandments. These are not just any old commandments. They are the Creator's declaration of a correct and proper behavior. I would suggest that you look at it very carefully, because when Jefferson wrote his letter to the Danbury Baptists, he used the phrase, the separation of church and state. Unfortunately, that has been misused and misunderstood for a long time, also by the Supreme Court, because it's not in the Constitution. I submit to you today, and this is why we need to be very careful, this is not a separation of church and state, it's a separation of God and the nation. Please be considerate and understanding of what is correct, true, and proper for the instruction of students concerning right and wrong, good and evil. And perhaps it might be a good idea to post those commandments in this boardroom. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent, President, and Trustees. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Today, the Supreme Court blocked a California policy withholding gender information from their parents. California Department of Education issued guidance that directed public schools to treat a child as a different gender if the child so wished, and to hide the fact from the child's parents, even lying to the parents if necessary. This is a huge victory for parental rights, religious freedom, and common sense. God bless the court. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your time. This year marks 250 years since our nation declared our independence from Great Britain. We will be celebrating important history topics, events, milestones, including our Constitution. We have studies from academics which say that the average length of a governing document is within 17 to 19 years. Our Constitution is 239 years old. When you look at our governing structure, no one has enjoyed more freedom, more stability, more prosperity, or has exhibited more benevolence than America. Those of us who are advocating the posting of 10 Commandments and other founding documents, such as U.S. Constitution, Mayflower Compact, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, National Anthem, and Pledge of Allegiance, believe that these are wonderful avenues of learning. They can offer insights as to the question of our success as a nation and the longevities of our laws and our traditions. So where are we today regarding our knowledge of our founding history? Well, if you look at where we are now, the current statistics on kids who graduate from high school, 50% are unable to name the branch of government where bills become law. How good a citizen will there be if they don't know the basic facts? 60% do not know the term lengths of members of their U.S. Congress. Now that affects the activity of elections, knowing how often elections should happen, whether or not you want to change in your legislators. 50% think 1776 is when the Constitution was written. Only 9% can name the 5 First Amendment rights. If you can't name them, you can't defend them because you don't know when they're under attack, or you don't know when to exercise them because you don't know what they are. Winston Churchill said, study history. In it lies all the secrets of statecraft, that is the management of state affairs. Ronald Reagan similarly emphasized history. He said, an eradication of the American memory could result in the erosion of the American spirit. Our young people need to know who we were, how we got there, and what the rest of the world is like. A principle of liberty says, a free society cannot survive as a republic, that is based on law, without a broad program of general education. Thank you very much.
I'm praying for you, and we'll continue to pray. Been working on the commandments, 10 Commandments, historical significance, for going on 2 years now. So, and when I started, there was, I think, one group doing it. Now it seems to be sweeping the nation. Throughout its history, the Supreme Court has overturned its precedents approximately 145 to 232 times. Depending on the criteria used for counting, specifically, constitutional precedents have been reversed 145 times, and another estimates 232 since 1810. In contrast, Supreme God's laws are considered unchanging because God is seen as unchanging and everlasting. Yes, his laws do not change, but they can only be fulfilled. The following states have considered or passed legislation requiring the display of the 10 Commandments in public school classrooms. Louisiana passed a law to display the 10 Commandments in public school classrooms. Arkansas has passed a law to require the display of the 10 Commandments in public school classrooms. Texas has passed a law requiring the display of the 10 Commandments in public school classrooms. And in one of its largest districts, Frisco District, ISD, the 10 Commandments now hang in over 4,000 classrooms. You won't see that in the news. South Carolina House of Representatives has passed a bill requiring public schools classrooms to display the 10 Commandments. The bill was received an 84 to 31 vote, mandates every K through 12 school and college classroom display the 11 by 13-inch poster or frame copy of the 10 Commandments. Missouri has an initiative, Senate Bill 594, that would require the 10 Commandments to be displayed in classrooms starting in 2026. This bill mandates that each school district and charter school board display the commandments in every building and classroom under their jurisdiction. West Virginia legislator has proposed a bill to require public elementary and secondary schools to display a durable copy of the 10 Commandments in a conspicuous place in each classroom. This bill is introduced on February 17, 2025, aims to ensure that the 10 Commandments are predominantly displayed in public school classrooms starting in 2026. So what I ask you, for a future time, and I request a future time that I can come and lay out in a deeper fashion the historical significance of the Ten Commandments and why it's so important, especially in our 250th year, that we're celebrating the very documents that our country was founded on. And it has given multiple and will continue to give multiple people true freedom, democracy, and liberty. Thank you for your consideration.
Hello, everybody. Paul Infesti, graduate of South High. I'm not going to say what year I graduated, but my dad also retired from the high school district as a math teacher out at Arvin High School decades ago. First, I would like to congratulate trustees David Manriquez and Stephen Rodriguez for a positive court ruling in their favor over an attempt to activate a recall election by using false or misleading information. Perhaps it was just a case of sour grapes on the part of Penny Lepisto after losing her election to incumbent Manriquez in 2024, or maybe it is due to an assumption that there can only be one very narrow reason why someone might support or oppose an issue. In any case, their votes had no effect as to the district's current policy, and there are literally thousands of your constituents who support the positions you took and for your different reasons for doing so. As far as the school placement of Ten Commandments is concerned, several members of the Kern County Board of Education have suffered the delusion that all the school districts in Kern County wait with bated breath to see how they vote on issues before school district boards act on them. While that might be just hyperbole on the part of those few education board members, it might be wise to follow their lead in this instance by indefinitely tabling the resolution that Paster Frazier presented at the February meeting. And finally, it is gratifying to see our high school students take community stands on issues such as ICE raids. I'm referring to the recent rally in downtown Bakersfield last month. This generation is seeing firsthand the fascistic nature of state power growing in our midst. They are learning how to think for themselves, a crucial step for saving our representative democracy within our republic. Thank you.
Good evening. I had not planned on addressing the board tonight. I don't want to become one of those people who feels they need to speak at every meeting just to hear their own voice. However, events of the past 2 weeks, I feel necessitate my making a comment. In my last 2 appearances before this board, I mentioned that there is a large, growing by the week, dedicated movement of anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, pro-human, and pro-civil rights activists here in Kern County, the size and scope of which has not been seen here before. I'm taking the liberty on behalf of many in our movement to place here on the public record an appreciation for and a thank you to Kern County Judge Mark Smith for his recent ruling ordering the removal of deliberately false information on a petition that is seeking to recall 2 trustees on the Kern High Board, which hopefully has stopped this pathetic attempt by a failed board candidate to abuse the electoral system to attempt to remove these members who were fairly elected, including one who defeated her in the 2024 election. Judge Smith rightly found that language in the petition, which seeks to remove members David Manriquez and Steve Rodriguez, and was submitted by Penny Lepisto, falsely claimed that the trustees Manriquez and Rodriguez, according to the ruling, quote, broke the public trust by voting to allow biological males to participate in high school female sports teams, end quote. According to trustee Manriquez and Rodriguez's attorney, Robert Noriega, the judge found that, quote, the statement was false and misleading by clear and convincing proof, and that the statement was unsupported by facts. Judge Smith ordered that the false statement be stricken from the recall petition and that the county clerk reject any petition that contains the false statement. I watched the replay of the October board meeting twice, wondering if I was viewing the right meeting. There was no proposal or vote to allow biological boys to compete in girls' sports, none whatsoever. In my 28 years at the Bakersfield, California, I attended dozens of board meetings. And what transpired at this meeting, primarily between trustees Tinsinger, Manriquez, and Rodriguez, was a very normal, routine discussion. Interesting for sure, but routine. Had I been covering that meeting as a reporter, my story would have gone something like this. Trustee Tinsinger proposed that the board issue a non-binding statement of support on behalf of the board for the original intent of Title IX. Trustees Manriquez and Rodriguez expressed concern that the statement might negatively impact the district and its 43,000 students in the form of legal issues or loss of funding. In the end, the board voted 3-2 to go forward with Mr. Tinsiger's proposal, with Mr. Manriquez and Rodriguez voting no. So how did we get from an interesting but routine decision by this board to an attempt to recall 2 board members? Easy. Trumpism, the MAGA way, the MAGA mindset, and the Trump trickle-down effect, where the disgraceful president's complete disregard for all of the conventions of normal societal order and his urging of his followers to do the same filters through society and makes its way to all forms of government, from the highest national institutions to community governments and organizations just like this board. The MAGA way: whine, cry, bully, play the victim, ignore conventions until you get what you want, and unlike a toddler pitching a fit when his blood sugar drops too low.
Johnny,
the single greatest whiner and crybaby movement in American
John,
history.
let's wrap it up, please.
Huh?
Can we wrap it up?
Okay. The 2 men who voted the way they did because of deep concerns over potential financial risk to the district, 2 trustees voting to protect the district from possible harm, and they are accused of violating the public trust. Good God, how ironic. Thank you.
If once, like I said before, please, could you guys be respectful? Mr. McLean, please keep your comments to yourself and do not antagonize somebody that's spoken, please.
He's lying.
Everybody has their opinion, sir. We hold decorum in here, and we let everybody speak, including yourself. Thank you.
I appreciate the comments from the public. It's great to get history lessons and hear what the public has to say. But I think it's extremely important when we talk about honesty and what was said tonight. There isn't a trustee up here that supports ICE or wants ICE on our campuses. And I don't know, they were referring to a trustee. I have no idea who that would be, because that's never been a discussion amongst any of us other than the policies that our school district has. And so, real briefly, Dr. Zolfa, could you talk about our policy that we have concerning ICE and correct what was said, because that went public, and I think it's important for the public to know exactly what our school district does.
The district's position has not changed substantively over the last few years relative to border enforcement or immigration enforcement at any of our sites. Short of a court order or some other type of legal directive, we do not allow our Border Patrol or ICE agents onto our campuses, short of a subpoena or a warrant from the bench to detain individuals on our campuses. We don't provide student records, again, without a court order or warrant. We also do not inquire as to the status of our students or their parents. We serve all students who come to us, and I think in a nutshell that pretty much wraps up where we're at.
No, I appreciate that. I think it needs to be clarified. Thank you.
Yeah, and that was a 4-1 vote on that policy, just to make that clear.
And just to make you aware of how we operate on this board is that when we bring board policies forward, the normal procedure is to have a first and final reading. And the idea of having a first reading is to give the public the opportunity to see the changes in the board policies and to be able to give you, the public, the opportunity to look at those and come before the board and tell us your concerns or your support. So there was a mention from Trustee Manriquez that there was a 4-1 vote. So I'm assuming he's talking about the board policies that I voted against. There was a myriad of policies, but because of time constraints, there was a decision to make that our first and final vote at a single meeting, which did not give the public the opportunity to speak to any of those board policies. So I believe that there's misrepresentation here by stating that one of the board policies concerned ICE on our campuses and whether or not we notify our parents. And if anybody knows me, they know that our parents and our students are number one, and if anything transpires on our campuses, the parents should be notified, no matter what happens, and that includes ICE being on our campuses. I don't have an issue with that. The issue I had was that we did a first and final on several board policies without giving the public due time to put their input in. And so on that, I did vote no, because I felt that the public should have had a chance to look at those board policies and to come in here. It would have given you, well, it's a short month, but it would have given you about 3 weeks to look at those policies and come in here and comment. I think that's extremely important. But part of the reason was that the state brought down some laws and gave us a very short time to implement some of these policies. And so there were trustees on the board that felt it was important that we implement those policies in a quick manner, and I understand that. But that was my disagreement, and that was my vote. Thank you.
Speaking of We the People, I believe someone made a comment on general government education. I do have to agree that our students aren't as educated in government and politics as much as they should be. I was looking up the statistics, and only about 35 to 40% of young adults, so from ages 18 to 24, are actually registered to vote. And that is an incredibly small number, especially when you see that these are the same people who are the future of the country. And that he was very right when he said that most people don't know what they're voting for. They're not educated on what they're voting. So most of them, I would say, from what I've noticed, don't even care. I mean, I have one of my friends in We the People, she's a triplet, and one of her sisters was taking an online government class, and she had a quiz, and she asked my friend for help, and she literally knew absolutely nothing. She didn't know what 3 branches of government were. She didn't know what they did. Nothing. She had to ask her sister for help. And I think that's really sad, because at the end of the day, it's these people who are going to be making the decisions for our future. And I wish that there was some way to really strengthen the government education programs that we have in the district and in the state, country overall. I know for a policy like that, you'd probably have to go through the State Board of Education, and then that would have to be mandated by the Department of Education, and then each district does theirs, how they would implement it. So that's probably a very long process, but hopefully one day we can see students are more educated in their government and politics. Not that every student has to be 100%. I won't say I know everything. I certainly know a lot more than I did at the start of this year. But just a little bit more so people know what they're voting for.
Just as a matter of order, so folks that are in the audience, so yes, I did roughly double the amount of time we had for our Spanish speaker, but essentially she was speaking for 3 minutes and we were translating for 3 minutes. So no special deal. That's just what it did. John went a little over his time, but he did have to be at the very end of the meeting. And so we do try to keep it fair and balanced between all of our participants. And I appreciate also so many people in the audience respecting their fellow speakers. You look at our audience and our speakers tonight, it really represents how broad and diverse our student body is, and why it's difficult as a public school with so many different backgrounds, religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, to do this. And I appreciate how good and how well our teachers and staff do to accommodate so many different people.